My name is Phil, and I'm so excited to welcome you to our online worship experience. We're so glad that you chose to encounter God with us today, and we love and miss you all so much. And if this is your first time with us, what up though? We are so glad that you're here, and we'd like to know who you are. So please check the description box and hit the Stay Connected link so that we can get a little info and reach out to you. Now we can't wait to see what God does in our service today. And family, be sure to stick around after the message because we will be going live with Pastor Fonz and Cam. And by the way, if your screen freezes at any time, it's cool. Just hit refresh. It should come right back. So let's jump into what God has for us today. Join us as God is making all things new.
One, two, three, and...
I'll ever find my way. I wonder if my life could really change at all. All this earth, could all that was lost ever be found? Could a garden come out from this ground? Cause you make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of dust. You make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of us. Hey, hey. Springing up from this old ground. Out of chaos, life is being found in you. Hey. 'Cause you make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of dust. You make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of us. You make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of dust. You make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of us.
Watch this.
So you make me new. You are making me new. You make me new. You are making me new.
Come on, I invite you to sing that part.
You make me new. You are making me new. Make me new. You are making me new. Yeah. Say you make me new. You are making me new. You Listen, it's the song of the redeemed, rising from the African plain. It's the song of the forgiven, drowning out the Amazon rain. The song of Asian believers, filled with God's holy fire. It's every tribe, every tongue, every nation, a love song born of a grateful choir. It's all God's children singing glory, glory, hallelujah, He reigns. We're singing glory, glory, hallelujah, He reigns. Let it rise above the four winds, caught up in a heavenly sound. Let the praises echo from the towers of cathedrals to the faithful gathered underground. Of all the songs sung from the dawn of creation, some were meant to persist. Of all the bells rung from 1,000 steeples, none rings truer than this. Everybody, come on. It's all God's children singing glory, glory, hallelujah, He reigns. It's all God's children singing glory, glory, hallelujah, He reigns. One more time. It's all God's children singing glory, glory, hallelujah, He reigns. It's all God's children singing glory, glory, hallelujah, He reigns. And all the powers of darkness trembled at what they just heard. 'Cause all the powers of darkness can't drown out a single word. It's all God's children singing glory, glory, hallelujah, He reigns. It's all God's children singing glory, glory, hallelujah, He reigns. It's all God's children singing glory, glory, hallelujah, He reigns. It's all God's children singing glory, glory, hallelujah, He reigns. Yeah. We're singing glory, glory, hallelujah, He reigns. All God's children singing glory, glory, hallelujah.
There's a story of a prostitute, or lady of the night, if you will. She is walking down the road and is solicited by two young men in a car. She gets in the car and realizes that she recognizes one of the men. "Aren't you that preacher I watch on TV?" "Not tonight," he says. They took her to a motel in the area, had their fun with her, left her her money, and went on their way. The next day was Sunday. And so the preacher got up early to prepare for service. And right before the service started, he notices the same woman he picked up on the street walk into the sanctuary. He panics. He thinks that she's here to out him or tell on him or embarrass him in front of his members. He calls over one of his staff members and says, "You see that woman over there? I think she's a lady of the night. I think I've seen her out on the road before." The staff member says, "Yeah, Pastor, she looks the part." That staff member went on to one of the deacons and said something similar. And that deacon went to some of the church mothers and said something similar. And pretty soon this entire church is scoffing and judging this young lady. And by the time the church service started, most of the seats were filled, but the seats next to the young lady were empty. People avoided her. They shamed her, they talked about her, and the pastor even participated in this, even though he was an enthusiastically willing participant just the night before. Self-righteousness is one of those things that is easy to spot in other people, but very rarely do we see it in ourselves. This pastor is attempting to shame her for her occupation as if he did not participate in her occupation, and the church members are attempting to shame her as if they have never sinned themselves. We're about to read from John chapter 8, which contains a very similar story to the one you just heard. John chapter 8, starting in verse 1 says, "But Jesus went to the Mount of Olives. Early in the morning he came again to the temple. All the people came to him, and he sat down and taught them. The scribes and the Pharisees brought a woman who had been caught in adultery, and placing her in the midst, they said to him, 'Teacher, this woman has been caught in the act of adultery. Now the law of Moses commands us to stone such a woman, so what do you say?' This they said to test him, that they might have some charge to bring against him. Jesus bent down and wrote with his finger in the ground." There's a few things I want to point out regarding these verses. Verse 2 says that Jesus was teaching in the temple. So when the scribes brought this woman and put her in the midst, this is the equivalent of them disrupting a church service in the middle of a sermon. The scribes and the Pharisees don't really respect Jesus. So when they call him teacher, they are actually mocking him. And let's be clear, the point of them bringing this woman into their midst had nothing to do with the woman. She was just caught in the crossfire. The purpose of them bringing this woman before Jesus was an attempt to trap him between two sets of laws. They say to him, "The law commands that we stone this woman, but what say you?" Now, if Jesus tells them not to stone this woman, he is then breaking the law of Moses and can be cited as a heretic in front of all of these people. If Jesus says this, this would be the equivalent of a pastor contradicting the Bible in front of a church service. Because that never happens. On the other side, if he says, "Go ahead and stone this woman to death," he is then violating Roman law, which does not allow someone to solicit an execution without the approval of Rome. The Pharisees really thought they had him this time. There's a few more points I want to bring out. The law of Moses clearly stated that the punishment for adultery was death. This was an open and shut case. They could have easily just taken this woman to the courts, had her put to death. There was no reason to bring her to the temple. There was no reason to get the opinion of a rabbi, and the parties involved knew this. Scribes are also called lawyers. They are experts in Mosaic law. They knew this was completely unnecessary because its sole purpose was to try to trap Jesus. That woman to them was completely expendable. If you take another look at verse 4, it says that she was caught in the act of adultery. Now, my mama always said, it takes two to tango. She wasn't caught by herself. I don't think you can adulterate with yourself. Yet they don't bring the man, showing that they are not truly interested in justice, because justice would demand that both parties be punished by death. They have self-righteously thrown this woman before Jesus in an attempt to trap him. These scribes and Pharisees are trying to incriminate an innocent man while simultaneously pretending that they are seeking true justice. And they continue to ask him, "What do we do? What should we do, Jesus? What's going on? What do we do? What do you have to say about this? What's your opinion of this? What's your opinion? Hey." they continued to ask him, he stood up and said to them, "Let him who is without sin among you be the first to cast a stone at her." And once more he bent down and wrote on the ground. But when they heard it, they went away one by one, beginning with the older ones, and Jesus was left alone with the woman standing before him. Jesus' response is genius. He's not breaking Roman law. He's not breaking Mosaic law. He's not letting them kill this woman, but he's also pointing out the open hypocrisy and self-righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees. They brought this woman before him. They labeled her. They didn't call her by her name. They identified her by her sin. Maybe you've been there. Maybe something you've done has led people to believe that your sin is just part of your identity. That because you've committed this act, whether you've committed it once or 100 times, that is who you are to them. Or maybe you've been on the other side. Maybe you've been the one pointing the finger. Maybe you've been the one labeling someone else by their sin. Jesus has a very unique perspective in this passage. Verse 10 says, Jesus stood up and said to her, "Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you?" She said, "No one, Lord." And Jesus says, "Neither do I condemn you. Go, and from now on sin no more." Notice Jesus never says what you did was okay, or what you did was excusable, or it wasn't that big of a deal, or it's not that bad. No. He acknowledges the sin, but clearly loves the sinner. He said, "I'm not going to condemn you for it. It is sin, but I'm not going to condemn you for it." And let's also point out that Jesus is the only person present who had the right to throw any stones. He could have thrown it at her. He could have thrown it at the Pharisees. He could have thrown it at everyone he was teaching in the temple. Jesus had the right because he was the only one without sin, yet he chooses not to. It's kind of funny how that works. The people who don't have the right to throw stones are armed and ready with their rocks, yet the one who has the right chooses to show mercy and grace and love. But the other thing he does in this passage is he gives her something that we've all been in need of: a second chance. He says, "I don't condemn you. Go and sin no more." He didn't just see the woman as an adulterer. He didn't see her and identify her by her sins. He saw a future for her. He saw her potential. And when God looks at her, he saw the price that Jesus was going to pay on the cross. He gave her a second chance. He said, "Go and sin no more. I am letting you out of this condemnation, and I am giving you an opportunity to do better." What if we did the same to our brothers and sisters who have fallen, who have messed up, who have done things that we deem as unspeakable? What if we treated them the same way that Jesus has treated us? Because in the same moment we are pointing the finger, we forget we're not innocent. We forget that the same God came down and put human flesh on and died for all of us at the same time. He didn't pay more for some and less for others. He didn't get a discount on your salvation because you were so good. No, we were all sinners. It seems that in this moment, the scribes and the Pharisees forgot that. They forgot that they weren't innocent. It says in the text that the older ones left first and then the younger ones left. And many theologians believe that the older Pharisees and scribes left first because they had more sin to remember. They knew who they were, they knew what they had done, and they knew they had no right to stone this woman. If you're watching this today and you are one of those people that has identified others by their sin, I encourage you to read this passage. I encourage you to take that love that Jesus gave you and give it to someone who needs it. Give it to someone who is weighed down by the weight of their sin, someone who deserves condemnation just like you. Or maybe you're the person that's wearing the label of your mistakes. I want you to know that there is a second chance in Jesus. Jesus is saying to you today, drop your life of sin. Go and sin no more. This is your second chance. I'm not condemning you for what you've done, and I don't identify you as what you've done. I identify you as the person I created you to be. I see your future. And I see, most of all, my sacrifice that my son paid on the cross. Many of us walk through life wearing these labels and believing that we are not worthy of his love. But that's not up to you. That's up to him. He decided you were worthy. He decided that you were worth dying for. And so I ask you today to accept his love and embrace his love. You don't have to walk around with all those labels. You don't have to walk around with all that pain and shame and guilt. You can walk around as a child of God. You are someone Christ died for. Go and take your second chance.
House, and even when we're talking about things, we are not the sin that we have committed. Both of us come from pastoral families. We're both pastors' kids, so we grew up in a space where it was very important to present a clear kind of presentation that, hey, sin is not okay. You know, our family, we've been changed by God. We are a church-going family, a church-loving family. We both grew up in spaces where we were at the church an awful lot. It was almost as if we lived there because we were there all the time. And
that's another story.
And it's incredible to know that while we did get a chance to kind of to see faith early on, and sometimes in these pastoral families, when there is a fall or there is a sin, it's really easy to be like, oh my God, now this is who I am. Like, I've made this mistake. I've let everybody down. I've let people down. I've let my family down. You know, I've done all of these things that both me and Kim, the 20 to 21 year was a really eventful year for both of us. And some of that we've shared before, but it's just this idea that we were kind of away from the covering of our parents in a sense, and we failed and we sinned, and we sinned, and it was very apparent that we did it, and yet it didn't catch God off guard, and God never looked at us as just sinners. Yeah. And this is something that Dave shared, and this is really incredible, that no matter what we have done, God does not just see that and stamp that label on our foreheads. We're not just, alcoholic or adulterer or fornicator or liar or whatever. Like, that's not something that we kind of have to wear for like the rest of our lives. And that's an incredible thing that I think Dave brought out. This passage is really crazy because there's a lot of debating about it even being in the Bible. Like, there's some people that like it got added later, and some people to this day feel like it should have never been in there. It shouldn't be in the scriptures, for fear that it will give license to sin. There's some people who actually feel like the way Jesus responds by saying, they don't condemn you, I don't condemn you either. Like that's like Jesus saying, basically, do you, you know what I'm saying? Go and get how you live, like do your own thing. But what I love about even what David shared and the way he even brought it across, Jesus doesn't ignore or excuse her sin. Right. Like he doesn't like respond in a way, which is crazy because a part of the trap is that Jesus has way too much compassion. So they're actually kind of banking on him being compassionate and letting her go, like not dealing with the sin so they can use that against him. They're hoping he'll be compassionate. And yet in his love and his grace, he doesn't ignore her sin. He actually responds to it. He actually engages it. And there's something that, and Dave kind of alluded to it, but Jesus, in the way he handles this, he doesn't give her license to sin. He gives her ultimately a reason to stop. Yeah. Like he gives her ultimately something to break the cycle or the monotonous kind of self-gratification or whatever it is that goes on, right? When we're seeking satisfaction or pleasure in things that aren't God. Like he gives her a reason to stop this cycle, to stop looking for whatever it is she was looking for in these relationships. And this is how Jesus is with us. Like, I think Dave said it right. Like we are sinners in that we can very easily find value, find gratification in something very far from God. In some cases, even God's stuff. Like we could like church stuff. Like right now, some people are really uncomfortable with the fact that they can't meet, they can't gather, they can't do in church sort of services or a context like that. And it's hard because, you know, they get a lot of value. They get that shot in the arm. We get to work on something. We got to do something. We got to see it happen. And then something, you know, like this happens and they can't go to the church building. They can't serve. They can't be on. People can't see how they solve problems. People can't see, you know, how great they sing or preach or minister or whatever the case is. And this could be a time where they could be struggling. And my prayer is, and our prayer is that people would take this time away from some of the traditional kind of Western service idea and really take this as a time to be refilled and to receive the love and the grace that Jesus has for us. And the fact that ultimately our value and our identity does not come from what we do. It does not come from the team that we serve on. It doesn't come from how good we are and our skills and our talents and our performing. For instance, Dave is an incredible storyteller, both in front of the camera and behind it. And as dope as it is, and as much as we love the videos and we love getting to tell the story of the gospel, God isn't just looking at Dave as a videographer or director, really, because he should get some kind of Pulitzer or something after this is over. But God does not see him. He sees him as a son. And there's no greater term that we can use than a son or a daughter. That is an incredible thing. Like I think I read this, so I said I was gonna read it. But one might look at, even at the time that this was written, one might look at Jesus and go, well, how dare Jesus forgive sin? Like, how can Jesus forgive sin unless sin is against him? Like, how would Jesus be able to, even the people at the time, they were like, well, Jesus can't, like, that's not something humans can do, you know? But the only way he could do it is if the sin was against him. Now, the thing that makes this special and intimate is when we sin against Jesus. Yeah. And Jesus is the one that comes to earth, puts himself in our place. Yeah. It's the offended party. It's the one that we've wronged is the one who comes not to accuse us, but to acquit us. Yeah. You know, not to throw stones at us, essentially, but to lay his life down, to be beaten, to be bruised, to be spit on. It's the offended party that does this. How incredible. Like, how can we not want to worship a God that literally puts himself in the spot of the guilty person? When he's the one we sin against, it's him that we reject. It's him that we discard so willingly when we are trying to find our own thing or something that we think will make us happy. Mm-hmm. It's crazy.
I was thinking about earlier when I read the passage this week about this comic that I wrote a while ago, years and years ago for this class I had. And it said, and it was just about all the sin in my life and where it started and all this stuff. And it was called Find Me in Him. And I remember I had got invited back to church after I was like, done with church. I'm straight on y'all a bunch of heathens, y'all fake, and, you know, throwing my stones at people as if I don't have like all this deep sin in my heart. But I remember when I went back and I wrote it as my friend was trying to hook me up to meet a man. Me not knowing that the man that I needed to meet was Jesus. And that was who I found myself in. And even after all of the foolishness and the hurt and the sin, and I'm just trifling, okay, out here, like, seriously, y'all, like, it's so much that I can share that I want, because people out there with their stones right now.
Oh, not now.
But
not now. They would drop them stones. Hey, put the stones on the ground. Put it down. Don't hurt nobody.
But you know, I just remember thinking, like, you know, who am I? You know, who am I that he would love me and be mindful of me? And he thought that I was worthy when I did it. When I discarded him, when I didn't want nothing to do with him. Like, he thought that raggedy, trifling Kamisha was worthy of love. And that was so, like, life-changing for me. And it's not that, oh, now I'm good and I don't have any sin in my heart and there's nothing that I'm not dealing with. I'm saved, okay? Saved. That's not where I am. But he still sees me as worthy.
Yeah.
And in all of that, I'm like, dude, it's crazy. Like, I'm just saying, like, people know, like, some people know how raggedy that I am and was. And to know that God of the universe came and gave himself for me is insane. And he didn't say like David said, or, you know, like, he didn't pardon it and just be like, oh, whatever, it's nothing, you know.
Yeah.
But it was a heart transformation that had to come about. But the fact that he would jumpstart that relationship with me,
yes,
when I was so far from him.
Yes.
That's good.
That is what's incredible. Like, and this is the beauty in him dealing with the sin. If he would have just been like, hey, you know what? Don't even worry about it. That ain't a thing. That doesn't fix us. Mm-hmm. Like, that doesn't repair us. Just to blindly excuse the sin and not deal with the root, not deal with the hurt beneath our sin. Because we sin because we're hurt. We sin because we're sick. We sin because there is this void we cannot feel. There is this weight of our own sin that we don't know what to do with. Like, sin collapses the walls of our hearts in on itself. It can't function. So when God chooses to deal with our sin, that's when, just like, and Dave said, second chances. But man, I mean, come on, for some of us, it's been 200, right? It's been so many chances that it has to be a new beginning. Yeah. And that is where I think we find ourselves, and man, that has to be, I think, where this passage, not just for you as our family, but for us, and for all of us as we kind of walk through quarantine, shelter in place, and all of that. Like, I think as we read these passages and as we do this expositional study, and for those that don't know, it just means we say exactly what's in the text. We don't add to it. We don't build more. You know what I mean? We're not trying to read or hey, we got some stuff we want to say. Let's just use the scripture to say it, right? No, we just take our cues from the text. And every week as we do this, my most dominant response is worship. Mm-hmm. It's worship. It is worship, y'all. I want to worship a Jesus a God who, although I offended him with my sin, although my sin is real, like our sin is real. It's not a game. It's not a joke. It's not something to gloss over. No, it is very real. We sin against God and him alone. Ultimately, it's against him. Yes, it's against our spouses sometimes, or our friends, or our family, or even people we don't even know. But ultimately, all of our sin is against him. And yet he loves us and bum rushes us with his grace. These people that came to put Jesus to shame left in shame. The people that had the perfect trap set up to catch Jesus, they are the ones that left in shame. And the woman who was caught, who was experiencing so much shame that she's brought and probably naked, they believe, just thrown down in front of Jesus, she is the one that receives the covering. And I think this relates to us right here, right now. It is so incredibly impactful to know we have a God, a Savior who rescues us, who is never okay with you feeling lonely or abandoned or abused or shameful. Jesus allows us the opportunity to sin and to not live our lives in shame, not stay under the banner of oppression or sinful labels. We have been made new. So we are going to pray, and we're just going to pray right into that. You want to pray? You want me?
I'm good. Father God, we just worship you, Father God.
Yes, God.
You are so worthy, Lord,
of
all the praise and adoration. God, enough that I can give.
Yes, God.
You are worthy, Lord, of every breath in my body. And Father, I thank you for your love, your unconditional love, God, that you pour out on us so freely. God, I thank you for your son, Jesus.
Yes.
Who died for me, for us. God, so that we could have a new beginning, even in the midst of all of our foolishness, all of our shame, God. Jesus, you gave your life for us. Before we even confessed that we were sinners, before we confessed all of our junk and our baggage, you died. You laid down your life willingly. So that we could be reconciled back to the Father. God, we're so grateful. So grateful. God, I pray that your Holy Spirit, that you would continue to walk with us. When we feel that shame creeping up, when we feel that abandonment creeping up, when we feel that rejection creeping up, when we feel all those things creeping up on the inside of us that would turn us away from you, God, Holy Spirit, I pray that you would remind us. You would remind us who you are to us. You will remind us that you love us. You will remind us that we're accepted into the beloved. You will remind us that we are your children. God, I thank you. God, I just thank you.
God, we thank you that you have sent Jesus to reveal who you are. We thank you, Father, that you weren't pleased to just send messengers, to just send people to talk about you, but you sent one who came from you, one who knows you intimately and personally. You sent the very closest person that you had. You sent us your dear son. And Father, we rejected him, we abused him, we did not truly receive the gift that you gave us, which is ultimately the gift to know you, the gift to know intimately our Creator, to know where we come from, to know who our daddy is. So much of our lives, Father, has been trying to piece together an identity based on good works and good vibes and good skills and what we can work ourselves into. And Father, we've not always just sat and received who you are and what it means for who we are. So God, even right now, we receive your love. Would you pour your love into us, into the empty parts of our hearts, into the bruises, into our even the area of our origin and different stories and different issues that we've wrestled with, Father? Would you just fill us up with the true revelation of both you and us, that we would long to just be sons and daughters in the eyes and the presence of our Father. We thank you and we love you. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. Mm-hmm. Well, we're gonna get off and let you enjoy your Sunday together with family, or just a good brunch, right? A couple things that we do want to mention. First off, like this, actually a week and a half ago, David and Jasmine Summerlin, who I've had the pleasure of spending some time with here, maybe like the last couple months. We've been connecting and spending time together, and they are officially the life group leaders of District 1. The transition is complete. They are in. Delhi has been, oh my God.
Amazing.
Like, I'm not a crier, but I could weep when I think about just Delhi and Jeff and Dana, and just the space that they started leadership in. Yeah. What just all of what was happening, what was going on around it. They were so peaceful and so supportive and such a stabilizing force in the lives of people. Our people we love and people we care for, people we've sat in their living rooms and spent time with and just loved on. And we're so glad. We're so godly proud of Delhi and just her prayer and her labor in God for that group, as well as Jeff and Dana hosting week after week after week, all the time. I mean, they are incredible. I'm super excited about it. So they are officially the leaders of District 1. And trust me, when we get to come back together, it's going to be biblical, okay? We're going to find a horn. We're going to fill it with oil. We're going to hold it. It's going to be epic. But they are leading, and we're so glad. We're so thankful for them. And we have our 24-hour prayer hotline. This, which was really, it really was kind of birthed out of this, what can we do? Like, what we're sheltered in place. We really aren't able to just go freely, but what can we do to serve and to meet the needs of our people? And this was really kind of birthed out of that. We felt a real burden for prayer, for intercession, of course, and gratitude for our essential workers, as well as those who've just been affected by COVID-19. A lot of people have lost loved ones, people we know, people in our families, as people with older relatives and older parents in our families. It's been just a really sobering time. And so if you or anyone you know could benefit from gratitude, from an encouraging message, a prayer, intercession, or even something as simple as a listening ear, would you please, don't hesitate. You can call, you can text the number. It's 313-637-5050. Okay, 313-637-5050. And there are some of our own people who are watching this now who have made themselves available to just be a support and a help. So if that's you, would you please reach out and just use this? Our goal, and here's the thing, even if you're not an essential worker, even if maybe you aren't able to go back to work and you're just wrestling with what to do with those feelings, don't deal with that alone. Don't sit under the weight of that by yourself. Reach out, talk to somebody, call or text. It can be as much or as little as you want, but I think it's great to just use this as a resource. Yeah. And of course, we are so grateful for you and your giving. This has been a time where there's a lot of uncertainty financially. The economic ramification of all of this I don't even, it's almost unfathomable. Like I don't know that any of us know exactly what will happen. But you all have been just an incredible family, and you've continued to give. And we've been able, because of your faithfulness, you know, as a body, we've been able to be generous, to serve. We actually honestly don't even tell all of the stories of the things that we do, because it's not about us, and it's not like, oh, look at us, another photo op. That's not us. But please know that your giving has literally, I mean, both near and far, like we've talked about that, even in the Congo, we've been able to help churches and help people because of your giving. So if you want to give, you can give via online or text. The number to text is 313-855-5025. 313-855-5025. And you can give it online at detroitchurch.com/give. This for us has been an incredible time where we get to be a body to one another. Yeah. And if God has blessed us with a little more, and you find yourself needing a little more, it seems fitting as a family that we can serve each other, we can love on each other. So so we love you guys and we thank you guys. And we got a couple prayer requests that we're gonna take, and then we're gonna get off. We're gonna let y'all have a great rest of your day. So babe, you wanna well, you can see it. Okay. So
okay. Let me see. Sorry, trying to figure it out, y'all.
Maybe that's
yeah. From the village. Hello, the village, whoever that is. I don't think it's a prayer request. She was just saying that she was thankful for her daughter. Yeah, but we love you, the village, whoever that is.
All right. So from Fonz and Cam, as well as Sunny and Sharita, thank you guys so much for hanging with us. I hope you had a great time with Herb and Brian, whom we love. Brian, I think he took all of that in one take. He's super incredible. So we want to shout out Brian and Herb. We love them. Thankful for their worship, as well as Dave. Incredible job again. Didn't you do a good job? Yeah. He did a good job. And Dave, she doesn't say that to everybody. That means you did a good job. All right. So we thank you guys. We love you guys. God bless you. Have a good rest of your day.